January in India brings with it Makar Sankranti, a harvest festival rooted in seasonal eating and winter produce. Pearl millet or bajra is at its seasonal best at this time. And one of my favorite ways to enjoy it is as Tilachi Bhakri, a sesame-studded flatbread. Traditionally, this flatbread is hand-battered, but today I'm using a method that makes it softer with a crusty layer of what we call papudra in Marathi. So here's what you'll need. First, pearl millet flour, and it should be as fresh as possible. You'll find it in most Indian grocery stores across the UK. This flour though comes from my own farm in India. I brought it back on my last visit and froze it. And believe it or not, it's about as fresh as you can get it here. Next you'll need the same amount of water as flour. I'm using 1 cup of each. Then a quarter teaspoon salt and finally 1 teaspoon of any vegetable oil or melted ghee. I'm using locally grown rapeseed oil here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going a little off the beaten track with the dough today. So instead of kneading it straight away, I start by bringing the water to a boil in a pot. As the water heats up, I add the salt, give it a quick stir, and then tip in the oil. Keep the heat on medium. It usually takes about 2 to 3 minutes for the water to come to a boil. As soon as it starts bubbling, tip in the flour and switch off the heat. Give it a quick mix and pop the lid on. Then just let it rest for about 20 minutes. Covering and resting the dough traps the steam and gently cooks the flour, a process we call ukad. And this step is key because pearl millet being coarse and gluten-free, it needs that moist heat to soften properly. The result is a dough that's soft and pliable, never crumbly, and that's the secret to a softer bhakri with a distinct outer crust. After 20 minutes, once the mixture has cooled slightly and cooked in the steam, you're ready to wet your palms with cold water and start kneading it into a soft dough. The dough might still feel warm at this stage, so go ahead and dampen your hands as you work it. A little extra moisture whilst kneading keeps it soft and pliable. What else makes it soft? Lots of kneading. My mom used to say, the harder you knead, the softer it feeds. So get your knuckles in like you mean it and don't stop until the dough feels like you've given it your all. Here I feel the dough has become a tad dry, so I go in again with my wet knuckling action, pressing and folding carefully to bring it back together. And even when it's almost ready, I can't help sneaking in a few extra smacks on the pastry board. It's all part of the fun. Finally, grab a lemon-sized bowl of dough and press it between your palms. My top tip, if you don't mind a little extra elbow grease, is to knead it again on the board until it feels super soft and actually forms a decent flat round disc. Give it a good dusting of millet flour. Then flatten it out with your rolling pin. Whilst rolling, remember not to press too hard. Start by pressing gently in the center to begin flattening and enlarging the dough. Once it's about 3 to 4 mm thick, shift your focus to the edges. Press gently and evenly along the circumference to expand the flatbread and thin out the edges slightly. Don't worry if it's not a perfect circle. The shape doesn't need to be perfectly round as long as it's evenly spread and has a consistent thickness. Time to give it some sesame love. Just a teaspoon or 2 per bhakri is enough, but go ahead and be generous if you like. Hold the seeds close to the flatbread and sprinkle them gently on top. Now, gently press the sesame seeds into the flatbread using the rolling pin. Carefully pick up the bhakri with both hands and transfer it to a preheated tawa or flat pan over medium to high heat. I've had good results cooking it with the sesame side either up or down, so either way works. One key thing to remember whilst roasting the bhakri is to maintain a steady medium-high heat. The second thing to remember is to not leave it on any one side for too long during the first pass. When you flip it the second time, gently press the flatbread with a spatula to help it puff up. But puff up it didn't, so I gave it another go. Once cooked, please don't skip slathering a teaspoon of ghee over the bhakri. This keeps it soft for longer and imparts that comforting winter richness and flavor. My first bhakri didn't puff quite as I expected, so I gave it a second try. I like to coax the dough into softness by kneading it well on the board. Then I pat it between my palms, dust it lightly with flour and start rolling. At the beginning, you do need to apply a gentle press in the center, just enough to help the dough open out and spread evenly. What you're really aiming for here is an even thickness across the flatbread. Too much pressure on one side and the bhakri won't puff. Too little and it won't thin out properly. So it becomes a bit of a balancing act where you gently roll, press when needed, and let the dough guide you. Now, decorating the bhakri with sesame is entirely optional. Think of it less as a rule and more as a seasonal ritual. So seeds or no seeds, the technique for making ukadichi bhakri will still remain the same. Once the bhakri is fully studded or resolutely plain, it's time for fire. My tawa set squarely over the hob is already properly hot, and this time I place the bhakri sesame side down. Remember on my first attempt I did the opposite and put it sesame side up. Keep scraping and pressing with the spatula until the bhakri starts puffing up, and voila, we have puffage this time. And a distinctive crusty papudra too. Take it off the tawa and let it rest, but first a drizzle of ghee is non-negotiable. Traditionally, Maharashtrian bhakris don't use ghee, but I've never been much of a rule follower really. And I've grown to love my bhakri cooked this way, drizzled with ghee, more than the conventional way. What I love about this method is just how effortlessly it produces soft and perfectly layered bhakris. There's none of the stress of hand patting, wetting the dough on a scalding hot tawa, or trying to cook it over a naked flame, which on an induction hob like mine is basically impossible. But the best part is that this method works with any millet flour. Whether it's sorghum jowar or pearl millet bajra, the technique for making ukadichi bhakri remains exactly the same. And the result is always soft, perfectly layered and delicious bhakris. So do give this method a try and let me know how you get on. The full written recipe is in the description below. If you liked what you saw, subscribing won't cost you a thing and it really helps my channel. And a like, it's always welcome too. Thank you for watching and I'll meet you in the next video. Bye bye.